All right, so awesome conversation, and please feel free to continue it. Share art tips, share your pictures, your character art, stories, all of that. This is what the channel's about right over here. While you're talking over here, and I'll be interacting, we can also do a little map making tonight. Right? We've made three characters. We've worn the PC hat for three times. Now let's put on our DM hat and think a little bit about the world in which we're going to be running the campaign for this week. Zenithal? Maybe is that the name of the technique? It's not like a brand name. Uh, I wanted to say like xenoscopic or something like that, but I don't think that's. I think that's more of an X instead of a Z. But yeah, it's something where you use different primers for the undercoats. If you want to help create the dynamic lighting that Derek is talking about, which is a really cool way to paint your minis. Ah, okay, yep. So that might be it then. Huh. Ask yourself a question. Do you like saving tons of time while painting? Zenithal priming. Okay. Or zenithal. Yeah. Yep, that's the one, right? So it's lighter at the top. It goes. There we go. King's got it. King's hooked us up. Excellent article. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what it is because it stood out. I'm like, oh, it begins with a Z. How many words start with a Z? I'll never forget that. Meanwhile, today, what's the name of that word that starts with a Z? That's that really cool thing that I didn't think I'd ever forget. Or it's one of those things that you're taking a shower, like you're washing your hair, you scrub it up, and you're like, you drop the wash rag or whatever. You're like, Zenithal, the revelation in the shower. It's irrelevant. It's not attached to anything, but it happened. King forgets all his ideas. Well, that's why you became a lich then, right? So you have eternity to either try and remember or to come up with more and better things. Forgetful? Just take a 40-minute shower. So maybe that's why floating down the river was helpful to you, King. KOP interrupted the stream with a call when she's just in the next room. I had to snap some pics of figures. I'll upload. Hey, that's fine, Chewy. Share what you want. And we understand, look, lighting can be non-optimal. Focus can be non-optimal. But yeah, you could put minis and drawings and whatever here in the character art. Also, if you like general photography, in fact, Bloody Torchic here shared some photos. If you like taking pictures of the world around you, because look, we live in different parts of the U.S. and beyond, in Canada, and we have some people down in South America, over in Europe. For a while, Romonger was doing a job in Japan fixing a water pump in Fukushima. But if you like taking pictures of the world around you, you can share these pictures also to help inspire us, right? Is there architecture that really moves you? Is there landscaping? Are there pieces of art, like public art? Are you by any natural resources or parks or things? And this can help give each other ideas for landscapes, for creative storytelling. One crit wonder here took a nice a skyward pose, and also GM Vault. I don't know, is GM Vault? Are you still in here? If so, GM Vault put up a ton of really cool photos, and as he was telling us, he has some experience taking photographs, and so we can even share not just the things that we photographed, but even maybe tips or tricks with each other to help out and get really cool shots like this. But all this stuff that GM Vault uploaded, these are pictures that he himself took. Really cool stuff. I mean, you all, by nature of being role players, you are opening yourself up to being creative in different ways with art, words, thoughts, conversation, socialization, all of this stuff. You just get better and better and better at it, and especially as you meet other people who do different things. Also, Derek, I do see what you're talking about with the warmer colors and such. Torchic says King needs more notebooks out the windows of the school. So, last week we made a place called Giongia City. And the concept behind Giongia was, if you're new here, we have developed an in-stream region called Mesotopia. Think of it kind of like the Mediterranean. We divided it up into 6 different countries, and every week it took a little bit more than 6 weeks, so for about 2 months, we focused on Mesotopia at large and each of the 6 countries inside of it. Well, 2 weeks ago, we ended our Mesotopia-focused campaigns and setting exploration and map making. And we said, all right, now it's time to explore outside the bounds of Mesotopia, especially because as we were running through these different campaigns, we conceptualized that there's going to be this invading force. This empire, this external empire from the northeast is going to come down and try and take over Mesotopia as the countries bicker amongst each other and have little, fights and civil wars and stuff. And what we did 2 weeks ago is we took a group of Mesotopian adventurers and we sent them to the Outlands in order to try and head off or deter any Imperial scouts that were coming from the northeast. And that was Mesotopia's outreach going up. Well, last week, while we're now in this arc called the Shade of Shadar, or the Shadow of Shadar, because that's the name of the empire coming down, we took a Imperial-controlled city that is not inside, Shadar proper. And while the city portion is controlled by this civilized empire, there's another half of the city that is filled with bestial races, right? So Volo's Guide monster races. And we made a campaign and adventure around this. We're going to take the same concept as last week, and we're going to look at the other side of the coin. So we made last week an adventure about these beastmen races, or whatever you want to call them, monstrous PCs, that are kind of rebelling against Imperial-controlled Giongia. And the campaign has, events that happen as they do for that party. The other side of the coin, and this is going to be a practice now, as DMs, how do you mesh 2 different campaigns happening simultaneously, quote-unquote, together? And so the party that we're making this week are going to be Imperial loyalists going through the same kind of strife and turmoil as the rebellion PCs did last week. So we have a map of the city, but the Imperials are going to be looking at things a little bit differently. So we don't need to worry too much about this part of the map, but we can maybe add more details here and even go a little bit further into the mountains against which Giongia City is is crafted from and sort of butted up into, as well as this big lakeside or this mountainside lake, which has what we ended up calling the Screaming Deep, because this kind of looks like a face and profile that's screaming, and so this was supposed to represent like super deep water, like really deep water, unusually deep water for a lake. But it looked like this, and look, if you get something called the Screaming Deep, that just sounds cool. And so I thought what we could do is we'll include, Giongia City, or at least a part of it, to reference here, but we'll go over to the other side of the mountains as well and show the wild neighbors that are maybe a wild card that can be used to, in this campaign, while also putting a little bit of detail on the city itself. So if we're doing that, how we made this map, actually, we did it by random dice rolls in a generator that the Dungeon Master's Guide offers. It starts around page 108 in Mapping a Wilderness, and then it gets into a settlement and so on and so forth. And we seeded a document, a text document, with different placeholders for what this region is like and what it does. And when we fill this in, we then use these randomly created elements to make a map. And that's how we got that initial map. Well, we want to keep the Imperial City, and nothing has changed between last week's campaign and this week's campaign. So we're going to keep the Imperial City of Giongia going. Though now we have this Outlands feature, which is on the other side of the mountain, and these more native beast tribe races may not necessarily be in contact with, right? These are the Outlands to Giongia City, not just Giongia proper, or the slums, or the whatever you'd want to call the outside the walls area of Giongia. So to get an idea for what we want to map it and look like, let's go to our random generator here, our dice roller. How the races of the Outland get along, we're going to roll a d20. 16. What does that mean? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. It's a placeholder. We've determined that we want Volo's PC races to live out here in these wilds. There are 13 such races that do that. So we're going to roll 2d13, and those are going to be the majority and minority races that exist. 8 and 4. Again, I don't know what those are. We'll come back to it. For everything else here, the ruler status, notable traits, what it's known for, all of these are going to be d20 rolls. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 7 d20 rolls here. That's what we're going to do. Here we go. We have 11, 20, 17, 2, 1, 15, and 2. Now, if you at home as a DM are more methodical, please plan methodically. For what we're doing on stream, as I like to promote, kind of random thought and challenge ourselves. Can we square the circle? Can we think on the fly? Can we connect two things that are seemingly opposites and still make it seem plausible? So I do this for the challenge, and maybe sometimes for the nonsense and the entertainment. And you can still do this at home for a serious campaign, or you can just be completely step-by-step methodical. The DMG can help guide you through it step-by-step. It's completely up to you. Chewie says, well, I posted quite a few pics I've done in the last month. Yeah, we'll take a quick look at them here. The Knoll Taskmaster. Hey, so Norton, these are your people here. Oh, wow. And yeah, Taskmaster, so he has a whip. It even kind of seems like a scourge more because it has these thorns or these fangs embedded in the whip. But there you go, Norton. There's a gnoll. Oh, wow. What vivid colors you're using, too. I mean, you're making things stand out for sure. Here's some random gnolls. Big axe, big fangs. It looks like you're not a stranger to minis and terrain. It kind of looks like you have a lot here in the background too. By the way, I'm digging the beholder in the background too. Ooh, an intellect devourer. Wow, that is a very uncommon mini. And in the back, is that a phase spider? Yeah, this is a very... It may not look like it. This is a tricky monster. A bull from Minos? Ah. Oh, and I like the little bit of a blood splatter you put on there. So it's freshly used. And I see it looks like you reflected it on the base, too, right down here. A whole lot of nope. Oh, yeah, yeah, there's the... I see what you're talking about there. Yep, so there's our phase spider. Snide the Laughing. Oh, you made him kind of look like a harlequin or something. Huh. And an Umber Hulk. Wow. And a Hulk it really is too. These guys are in something else. Well, thank you for sharing that. That is Chewy, you did a good job, man. Even if you don't think that you're good, you still took the time to do it, and you also had the gumption to share it with us. So no matter how good you may think it is, and look, we're always going to be our own worst critics. That's really cool that you decided to share that. Oh, and Torchic is showing a couple more. I love the outlay of the facility here, Torchic. Uh, and I see the fossils suspended up here too. Well, in a zombie apocalypse, it seems very defensible, Torchic. Umber Hulk and Intellect Devourers together are Party Wipe. Those are some very notorious and difficult beasties for sure, Chewy. And again, thank you for sharing that. I hope those miniatures serve you well as a DM, and if you're a PC against them, then may whatever pantheon you believe in have mercy on your soul. You could use that building for a necromancer. Is that because of the suspended fossils? Let's fill in what monuments our outlands have. Number 15, a great stone wall in ruins. And Monument 2, a plundered burial mound. Oh, or pyramid. Ooh, this is something that the other side had as well. Ah, and you know what? Giongia City was separated by an intact wall that has been fortified. Ooh, we're making some random connections here. Now let's scroll down. There's some kind of a weird locale. Ooh, a dead magic zone. Okay, I'm digging it. We can definitely create a story out of this. Now we're going to go to our settlements. Our races get along as number 16. The racial majority are conquerors. So 4 has conquered, or 8 has conquered 4. The ruler status is 11. Ruled or controlled by a powerful monster. Notable traits of the Outlands are 20. It is built atop ancient ruins. That might explain why the wall is as it is. The Outlands are known for its 17. Political intrigue. And its current calamity that is happening is number 2. A new cult seeks converts. All right, so we'll want to make sure that we can work this in, that there's some kind of a great stone wall that's in ruins, maybe some sort of a plundered burial mound or pyramid somewhere as well. So if we come over here, we could probably kind of keep the border right here where the dam is. So we can put the dam here. This scale's probably going to be a little wonky, but that's fine. So this came down a good ways. This came over a ways. The scale's wonky because we're going to want to show what's on the other side of the mountains. So, I mean, both maps aren't exactly going to match, but that is okay. This was kind of, whoop. This flowed out of the intact, like sluices or gate that existed. As did this. Kind of came over, wibble, wibble, wibble. And then this came down and kind of started going out and coming back. This went kind of wibbly wobbly over this way. And it was groomed to come down and enter the giant lake that was around here. And then this came up and split off this way. There we go. Map making. Don't let it get you upset, or you're like, oh, I didn't do well in my geography class or anything in college in your 101, because it, look, if you have MS Paint, congratulations, you can make maps in Dungeons and Dragons. That works. GM Vault almost wiped my players last night. 5 level 4 PCs up against a black pudding. The first hit, the paladin sliced it in 2. Now 2 CR7 puddings to fight. 4 out of the 5 went unconscious. Then the wizard felt the cavern floor start to tremble. The puddings climbed back up on the ceiling. Wizard was able to get the others up and out to rest before heading back in. The rumbling was from an earth elemental that the puddings were scared of. Oh, I love doing that, to have like vermin or oozes or other things that maybe are more instinctual flee in front of as a warning or an omen. Yeah, pudding. Oh my gosh, puddings. You're like, oh, a pudding. I'll fight a pudding. I'll eat a pudding. Oh my. Oh my. Yep, there's always a bigger fish. That's a great lesson. Were they inside a dungeon or a cave of some kind, or what was the circumstances? Someone posted the idea of Zenithal I have on. Okay, well, here, I'll open this up on the side, Chewy. Yes. Kingdom Death, for sure, has some very good miniatures, and people are crazy when they paint it, and I say that in a good way. Ivalon casts Summon Bigger Fish. Darkwolf asks, pudding, is there yogurt? Oh, is that silver mine? Okay. Rust monsters and puddings are the greatest creatures for low-level players. See, rust monsters are great because your players are your players like, oh look, these things, like they don't want to hurt us. They're they look mean, but you're like, oh, I just want to pet you and have fun, and I want you to tickle me with your little fronds and your little feelers. And well, things happen. Whoops. There we go. I had to fix this a little bit so I could move the mountain. Remember, you have the power to move mountains as a DM. There we go. This was kind of a little crescenty doodad up here. There's kind of a little Cheeto or a little bean up here. And the mountains kind of come down. And we'll say, Volvo, thank you very much for the host. The mountains come down and they become really kind of like jagged and mined out and kind of blasted, maybe even. Something happened. right? If it's built on top of ruins, indicate history with your maps also. So maybe there's nothing really here except a crater or something. And then we could put some big, like, chunks out here. Maybe this was part of the mountain at some point in time. There we go. Whoopsie. Didn't mean to do that. However, that does mean that I have a leak somewhere. Where am I leaking? There it is. This was a line that came down more. This was a line that came over. This one went up. And this one went across. And then we can draw on our little river bit here. Whoops. Right here, and that kind of goes down off the map. This comes up and through. This comes up and through and kind of over. And there's kind of a deep spot here. This kind of comes up and then hugs the mountain here. And this pretty well just comes right up to the wall, since the wall was built to be a dam and to confine a lot of the waters. So this one kind of comes over. It does a little wibbly wobbly. That's fine. Comes here, down, and then the lake shore comes up a little bit. So we are doing a bit of terraforming as the Empire here. And this has a more natural shore, lake shore curvature that goes over that way. There's a deep part that kind of looks like that, whatever, face and profile. There we go. And our development is going to be in... Whoops, not that. That goes over. Then we had another sort of development block here. To facilitate trade, they're using the lake as canals as well. And then there was a natural river that kind of has followed along, but you can tell the rest of it was man-made with the hard corners. So you can still show contours of things. There we go. And then we put our bridges that are going across to also facilitate trade among the different parts of the city. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. There's no problem with that. Honestly, these could probably be stretched out to come down a little bit more. I'm not going to worry about that. I think you get the gist of what's going on here. If nothing else, I can actually just take the river up a little bit more this way. And there's the idea. Then we'll color this white to separate this off. And now we can just fill this in with white. Easy peasy. Whoopsie. Not the whole thing. I just want the screaming part. There we go. There we go. And that. And this is also a depth. And all of this is going to be kind of swampy here. This is lowlands. A little bit of forest. We'll have this kind of like come up and over like this. This is going to be green and green. There we go. And then you can use the shape tool and put in the mansions and the other, the other buildings. If we want to go into more detail here, these could be like the founders' cities, or if you want to create long, like row houses for more of like a slum or a low income area, something along those lines, you can do that too. Maybe some people built roundhouses or their towers. Watchtowers, military, maybe they're wizard towers. You had some that were built out in the lake itself. And we have our city that we can get into more detail with should we desire, right? Do they have markets? If so, where does the market take us? Right here we have bridges going to places. What's the lifestyle like in different parts of the city? Now over here, this is probably going to be more... If this is kind of blasted out on this side, right? It's dry, it's arid, something along those lines. There might be some greenery if this is an explosion or a crater or something like this. Maybe the city exists here, and this ruined wall that they're talking about that we can indicate with... that's a little too thick. So we're using like a crayon to show that it's crumbled. In places it's just flat out missing. Something happened. In order to ruin and crumble those walls. Maybe there's even two sets of walls. And for whatever reason here in the south, things are pretty well maintained. Hey, Tycho, good to see you. Speaking of summoning people, we were talking about you a little earlier. GM Vault says, in one of my other campaigns, a paladin had to fight a baby rust monster He only lost his agile breastplate, his +2 heavy steel shield, and a warhammer. Oh my gosh. You know, I remember there was an old third edition. There's an old third edition book that showed a bunch of like tips and tricks, and it was interesting that rogues. One of the tricks was, if you were allowed to do it, rogues would keep like a tube, and they'd put baby rust monsters in them, and the end would have it would have like some slots at the end of the cap. Now, of course, the cap is like wooden in the glass, and it's glass, so that the rust monsters can't get their way out. But what you do is a rogue or someone would go up to a lock, and they would hold the end of the tube up to the lock. And of course, the little baby rust monsters are going to send their feelers out through the end, and they're just going to dissolve the lock inside the door. Chewie says, my lich has an anti-magic chamber filled with rust monsters. So how does the lich not lose its own magic if it's an anti-magic chamber, Chewie? Well, if we can find peaches or strawberries, we'd make it ourselves. Yeah, for the yogurt. Est Wild, hello. Have you seen the Fantasy City generator? Posted in Discord. Fun to play with. Also, good evening. Actually, here, I'll take a look real quick. Ah. I'll make sure to add add this to the list of links then. I don't think I've seen that generator though, unless that's a part of Donjon. But I like tools like that. Thank you, Estwild. What was said about you, Tycho? Well, I don't know if King's still around, but he can fill you in. Derek, yeah, welcome to Rust Monsters. Was it the usual he destroyed everything? Nope, not necessarily. Dark Wolf pulled a knight as a guardian of Wu. And I'm like, well, but Tycho, that's kind of Tycho. He wanted to step up and do that, but you haven't been around lately, so Dark Wolf kind of moved on and got herself a new knight. Someone needs to make a Rust Monster plushie. Haha, that'd be something. Hey, do it and earn a little income on Etsy. I'll help advertise you. Just stitch a Rust Monster together. Oh, the lich doesn't have to be in the chamber. Oh, it's just like a chamber. Gotcha. All right. We need to determine which of the Volo's races we're talking about here. 8 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So goblins are the minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So kobolds conquered the goblins. And kobolds are the majority race in the Outlands on the opposite side of Giongia City. Now, something interesting to bear in mind also is when we originally created Giongia City, this used to be a retainer lake. But when the Empire dammed the river, it ended up draining out through the tributaries, and that uncovered some kind of a pyramid or a plundered, pyramid or burial mound like what we got. So this is what's interesting that can happen in this random dice generation. What if now on the other side of the mountains, so about here, we have another pyramid, like a sister pyramid? Well, why don't we draw one, right? And we'll paint it orange to get people's attention. Now, what else has to be here? A great stone wall in ruins. We have that. Plundered burial mound or pyramid. We have that. This is a dead magic zone. Well, how do you reflect dead magic? You could do it in... Maybe that's what caused the ruin. There's some kind of a cult that's seeking converts. It's known for political intrigue. Now, if we have kobolds and goblins, well, you're like, political intrigue? I don't know. Think about it. What political intrigue could kobolds and goblins get themselves into? Now, it is also built atop ancient ruins. So we've indicated that maybe there was some kind of a blast, or this place was just so actively quarried to make the walls that it is what it is. But we can make the indication of some other buildings that lie in ruin. Right? If the south is kind of preserved very well down here, then we can put a couple different, like there's more ruins down here to get people's attention. And we could even put something... There we go. So here's some ruins around the area as well. Let's see. How much time do I have to delve into... To be fair, with enough time and Arcana, he could make it that the anti-magic field affects everything but him. GM Vault says, I'm tempted to get that Owlbear dice bag for one of my players. Chewie says, mage towers that are not protected tend to be overrun in no time. Derek says, and one thing about liches, they have time. That they do. Liches can breed rust monsters or capture other denizens. Someone tried to do a Kickstarter for a plushie, and it looks like it got shut down. It might be a trademarked monster, then. Yeah, better to do those on Etsy. Tycho asks, who is his fellow knight? That lake was a magic crater? Yeah, in fact, so maybe Chewie, maybe like if this was a magic explosion and all the magic got used up or something. Tycho says, don't ask me, I'm a boat right now. Don't ask. Yeah, that's true. King is floating down the river as a boat. Though, Derek, I'm not sure which question that you're talking about. But you have time. It's only 1:51 a.m. my time. If it has a language, it has intrigue. Oh, for that question? Yeah, if you want to throw out ideas, political intrigue among kobolds and goblins, yeah, get into that, man. Dorgrim says, added a link to the 5e anti-magic explained by Jeremy Crawford in rules discussion on Discord. Okay, I'll bring that up. Thank you, Dorgrim. Chewie says, the goblins follow one god, kobolds follow Takesis, so the kobolds killed goblins for her. And Dark Wolf, yes, Tycho, he isn't a woo, his name is Frederick. Fiction, welcome back. Good to see you again. Thank you for joining us. Take a seat. King says, at Derek, if I remember correctly, there's some sort of very time-consuming thing you can do in Pathfinder where you can invent your own spells and nothing prevents you from making ridiculous OP things aside from your DM. Yeah. Derek, yeah, thank you for the clarification, and if you want to go to town and discuss it, you're welcome to do so. Huh. Look at that. I love the little bristles, by the way. Oh my gosh. Look at that. And one crit threw up a YouTube link. Sometimes I make videos about RPGs or whatever. Well, thank you for sharing that as too, one crit, if you're here. Tremors, love it. Big Trouble Little China, Army of Darkness, Escape from LA. Rules Workshop, Jeremy Crawford talks about 5e anti-magic. I'll give that a gander as well. All right, so we have the basis for the map. We can put in other things of note or interest. If we only want to make the dead magic zone, not the entire place, but even let's say we want to make it, we could even plot it out and make it in a different kind of an orange color to act as a warning, perhaps. We can even do something like if they were saying that maybe this was an explosion and this was taken out, that the center, right? Oh, in fact, maybe we can make our dungeon around this pyramid also. And this one, if you want to get through it, well, you don't have magic to rely on if it's a dead magic zone. So anything inside this, something happened in this. In fact, maybe even it extends up and a little bit into the mountains. There we go. Create a bit of a mystery, right? Now they will need some kind of source of water. This is a mountain, so probably a lot of the storms are coming this way. And so the Empire's side of the mountain is it's filled with water, great water resource management, maybe even the use of magic. Here on the other side, they might just get a stream or something. We can even have it flow through. Let's see if this is all kind of... If this is kind of like a crater, then actually this might even just be its own little miniature lake around the pyramid. Kind of like this. In fact, ooh, what if we do this? Maybe the water is carrying whatever this anti-magic is. And the water is like leaking out of the mountain here. Something about the pyramid perhaps nullifies it. And it continues out in this way. There we go. This way the little buggers have something to drink. And interestingly of all, like the most beautiful part of this side that actually can support a little bit of vegetation is barren of magic. There we go. And then much beyond here. There we go. It might even turn a little bit deserty. There we go. Be creative and imaginative. It's your world, right? Do what you'd like. In fact, we can even say that the desert is trying to push in, and the river is just, helping to keep it back. And this, as much as it's scrubland or wasteland, it might. Maybe there's a. Kind of here, there's a little bit of a forest that's grown up, but just over here. There we go. Maybe it's even actually grown up to the side of the river. There we go. And then we can fill in topographical information and caves and, is there a link between the two? Do the kobolds and goblins, are they even aware of the existence of what's going on over here? Maybe. But as DMs, we've sat down, we've made a map. We have... Actually, if this is like a really low point, this could even be a swamp. Here. There we go. I mean, now, look, for this to come down, I guess it'd still have to be on a tilt. We can come up with something. We can even draw a little... Maybe we have a little oasis out here. Butted right up against the desert. There we go. Bloody Torchic, you have done a return. Derek says, I feel embarrassed on how little I really know about the U.S. Civil War. Crash courses in other countries' history is starting to get tedious. Derek says, I had to do the same thing with Detroit. Oh, yeah. The things you learn by role-playing. Right? Just here, we're considering things like geography, geology. If we're doing some war planning or political intrigue between kobolds and goblins, just sitting down and doing this is a great exercise. Even if you don't run the content, can you sit down as a DM, randomly generate aspects of a territory or a city, and fit it into your world or a world, or generate two different distinct areas, and can you link them together? Can you make a pineapple pen out of them? Right? And we also have to realize, too, this place is ruled or controlled by a powerful monster. Is that monster actually a goblinoid? Is it a kobold? Is it a dragon? Or a beholder? Or some other intelligent? Is a powerful monster like... Did King float down this river and say, you know what, kobolds and goblins, I can rule them? And so actually, while the kobolds were conquerors of the goblins, both of them are being ruled over by some monster in the shadows. You know, by a lich or a beholder, a dragon, some elithids or drow, something like that. And they're being used. If we say goblin, now hobgoblin is its own race that we could have rolled for, but that doesn't mean that there can't be maybe a group of hobgoblins that are actually ruling, or something along those lines too. And so we can see two vastly different worlds between the Imperial-controlled Shadar Empire, Giongia City, and this Outland section. We can give it some other name. We can call this... This place is known as Chewiemp. So we have Giongia City, the Imperial one, the Outlands, or the city specifically in which the goblins and kobolds live, is called Chewiemp. Alright, goblins follow one god, goblins follow Takesis. So I'm going off of some advice, and we're going to name the Outlands Chewiemp. That sounds like a goblin name, doesn't it? A beholder makes the best sense, says Derek. Maybe someone who's actually living at the top of the pyramid. Something like that. Dark Wolf says, unfortunately, I have a day shift tomorrow. I have a few this week, actually. So I have to hit the sack. I won't be able to recap tonight. No problem, Dark Wolf. Thank you for being around and handing out points and being an all-around awesome awoo, as you normally are. I look forward to reading about the adventures in the Lost Mine of Phandelver that you've been running. Thank you. And I think even with that, we've essentially completed a map. And again, if you want to go through now, and you can add, you know, topographical information, how steep things are. You know, are there any other tunnels? You can add details like that. But for what we're doing, right? If we want to get a rough idea for a campaign setting, for something we want to do, someplace we want to go, this would be an excellent a basis to get us brainstorming and thinking. Remember, we have political intrigue between the goblins and kobolds. Just because they're small, and, well, maybe small of mind, doesn't mean that they still can't be big on political intrigue. You just have to think differently. What kind of a monster rules over this land from this Shadows or the Secrets? Good night, Dark Wolf. All right, so I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna take another break. Before I started broadcasting, I had some like super spicy Thai food. I asked for it that way, so I'm not blaming him. But it's super spicy even still. And Spicy Larry isn't even here, at least not that I know of. But Spicy Larry, these frequent breaks for water and other beverages, these are going out to you, buddy, for my Thai food tonight. When I come back, hey, we'll be in part 3. We can work on the map. We can talk characters. If any of you out there are new to D&D and you want to learn how to play, ask questions, we can make you your first character. We can go through the process. Look, this is who we are and why we're here. Oh, GM Vault's leaving too. Thank you for being a part of the program again, Vault. Or GM Vault, or however. If you have any other videos you want to share, kind of like what One Crit Wonder did, GM Vault, you know you can always share those in the YouTube section on our Discord. All right, so give me GMV. Okay, so give me about like 5 minutes or maybe a little bit more to get a little bit more water to keep the spices flowing, and I'll be back and we'll continue to have D&D fun.